Welcome back, Year 9. We are now starting our second lesson of the half term. We'll come back to what we did last lesson in a minute or so, but we're thinking today about this question starts off with, does peaceful protest actually work to bring about change? Real change, long-term change, or just some initial change? What are your thoughts? Post it into the Teams page and we'll see what our class kind of thinks about on that. And this links into today because we're thinking about the suffragists. We're thinking about what role they played in helping women gain the vote in 1918. A suffragist, bottom left, is a woman who campaigned peacefully to gain the right to vote. So this is our link. It's all about peaceful protest. A reminder, suffrage is the right to vote in elections for the government. So the ability to the vote, to the actual ability to go down and cast your vote, post your vote, is called suffrage. So today we are thinking about this woman here. She was called Millicent Fawcett. And in 1897, various different local women's suffrage societies formed what was called the NUWSS, or the Suffragists. These were a group of sort of middle-class property-owning women. This means they weren't the richest, but they were fairly well off. They were from sort of professional backgrounds, so their partner or husband probably had a very professional job and earned reasonably well. They were probably educated, and they believed they should have the right to vote, but not necessarily that all women should have the right to vote. And they believed that in order to achieve this vote, they had to be peaceful. So it's all about peaceful protest. And the way they did that was they conducted non-violent demonstrations. So they might have a banner like this one here, and they might march down a street, march outside a certain place, all very peacefully, all very politely. They also, though, made petitions. So a petition would be like everyone's signing a piece of paper to demand an action or ask for an action or a change. And they might send that to the government with 100 signatures, 1,000 signatures, however many it is. We get lots of them today online. And this was, again, another peaceful way to try and force change. Because at all times, Millicent Fawcett wanted to present themselves, or present the suffragists and women, as responsible, intelligent, and polite. And she felt if they did this, then men would feel that women had the right to vote, were responsible enough to vote. However, in the short term, many of their protests did not actually lead to any changes. In the longer term, that could be debated, and that's something you want to think about today and in relation to what we are doing. That's just there in case any of you wanted to pause and just read through some information, but it's just what we talked about. So, your task today. There is a video for you to watch, which your teacher will send you a link as well, and that just gives you a bit more background on Millicent Fawcett. And then, first task, I want you to start categorizing some of the evidence. Evidence is on the next slide here, and it should be sent to you in a worksheet in your assignments folder on Teams. And I want you to categorize or group it into two different things. Ways the suffragists helped gain the vote, ways they did not help gain the vote. So ways it helped, ways they did not help. So we take an example, first one here. Between 1870 and 1884, debates on women's suffrage took place almost every year in Parliament. This succeeded in keeping the issue in the public eye, as government debates were widely covered in the national press at the time. So we've got peaceful protest, because it's just debating, spoken. Every year, well, that's quite good, because it's always on people's minds, as it says later here, and people don't forget about it. And it's in the national press, so more coverage, more people learn about it, but doesn't say if anything actually changed. So we might say it did help them gain the vote because it kept the attention on the eyes. But some of you might question how much that attention really achieved. So you might put it into column 1 or box 1. Now, a couple of challenge activities for some of you. You could start making some placards or protest banners and make them as if you were a suffragist. So what would your message be that you would want to share to the people? What kind of catchy phrases might you show or say? Remember, you're a peaceful protester. You want to show your intelligence, your responsibility, your politeness. Secondly, or thirdly here, you could write a letter from Millicent Fawcett, remember, the leader of the suffragists, to David Lloyd George, this man here. And he was Prime Minister in 1916, and as we saw in Lesson 1, was Prime Minister when they gained the vote in 1918. And in this letter, you could be demanding or asking the government to give women the right to vote. But why? Be really clear in your reasoning. And it all relates back to this. This is our inquiry for the half term. Was violence the driving force behind women gaining the vote? So here, we're actually not talking about violence. The suffragists were peaceful. So did that peacefulness help women gain the vote, or did it not? And by driving force, we're thinking what was the main force or main cause or main reason pushing women into gaining the vote? And the idea today is thinking, was it the suffragists? So to finish off today, one final task. We're going to start using better language to explain the reasons for change or the causes of that change. We've got 3 different keywords. We've got root, like the roots of a tree. These are like the foundations, the beginnings, the start. And this is like the cause that was in the long term, going for a long time before it happened, and was almost setting the foundations underlying that change. We've got accelerate. This would be a cause that helped speed up the change, added to the movement for change. And as you can see in the image here, it's kind of that speeding up, running, making quicker. And then we have this word, trigger. This is the final sort of step just before the action happened. This is the final trigger in creating the action. So, I want you to think, from what you've seen and the tasks you've done, did the suffragettes accelerate the process of women gaining the vote? Or did they trigger the introduction of the vote for women? Or were they the root cause of women gaining the vote? Because this is going to help us decide if violence was the driving force. Look on Teams to see what you need to do next and how you need to submit your work. And good luck.